I'm going to remarry her. So, divorce me. Since I've supported your life until now, I don't owe you any compensation, right?
My husband said to me without any hint of remorse. I was completely amazed by his shameless attitude. Fine. In exchange, he easily accepted my terms, but he didn't know yet that he will be the one who loses in this divorce. My name is Molly, a 38 years old housewife. I've been married to my husband Kevin for 10 years. We met each other at work where we were colleagues. We recognized each other as colleagues working in the same company. But as we had more opportunities to work together in the same team for projects, the distance naturally became closer. We started dating after going out for drinks together, and then getting to know each other better. After a year and a half of dating, he proposed, and we got married. He asked me to quit my job and become a housewife after we got married. Although I loved my job, I wanted to experience being a housewife, so I quit my job when I got married. We had a happy wedding with many friends and colleagues. Our newlywed life was enjoyable, and I worked hard every day to be a good wife. I bought cookbooks and cooked many dishes to improve my cooking skills. Kevin always enjoyed my cooking and was happy to eat it. He also worked hard at his job. While I earned a slightly higher salary when we were both working, he now earns as much as I did back then. So I decided to work hard as a housewife and save money. I searched for a lot of money-saving tips on the internet and YouTube and used them as references to cut fixed costs as much as possible and reduce food expenses without overdoing it. Thanks to that, I was able to save a considerable amount of money every month. Well, my husband lightly complained that he wanted a little more allowance, but that's a problem that all salarymen have. So, he'll just have to accept that. I continue to work hard as a full-time housewife, striving to save on household chores. I think one of the reasons I was able to work hard like that is because my husband regularly praised me. He always said,
Thank you for working so hard on the housework. I can concentrate on my work without worries.
Hearing him say that makes me happy, and I feel motivated to work even harder. Even after several years of marriage, we were able to live in peace and harmony as a happy married couple. One day, my husband suggested that we buy a house.
The apartment we were living in wasn't too convenient, but it's a little too big for the two of us. I think it's time to buy our house.
I also agreed with Kevin's opinion. We had been saving money all along for a big purchase like this. I also wanted a home of our own. So we immediately went to a real estate agent. We looked at various properties, but we found one that we just knew it belonged to us. Kevin said that as long as his room was spacious and relatively close to the station, he could prioritize my conditions. So we quickly decided on the house, since it already met his conditions. I paid for the down payment from the savings I had saved by cutting down expenses. We took out a loan and moved right away. Life in the new home was comfortable and refreshing, and we were both very happy and felt the excitement over our honeymoon again. When we had just moved in, we invited our friends and had a housewarming party, and we enjoyed our life in the new home. Of course, I have continued to live frugally since then, and I've been saving for the future. We were living comfortably in a spacious house without changing our lifestyle, so there was no way we couldn't be happy. And so, we were living a smooth sailing married life, but there was one problem, which was that we couldn't get pregnant. Kevin and I were not particularly in a hurry to have children, as we believed that having children was a gift of nature that would come naturally. But as it had been about 5 years since we got married, we began to feel anxious that we couldn't get pregnant, even after trying infertility treatment and fertility promotion. So my husband and I both underwent examinations, and it turned out that my husband had a condition which made it difficult for us to conceive. It seemed that he had a low sperm count. We were both a little shocked. My husband said to me,
I'm sorry.
but there was no way I could hate my husband for such a thing. I said, we've tried everything we could, so we have no regrets. So let's focus on enriching our life as a couple from now. My husband nodded and thanked me, shedding tears. After that, the two of us decided to live together as a couple. And without any particular problems, we reached our 10th wedding anniversary.
What should we do for our next anniversary?
Well, maybe we should do something luxurious, like going on a trip or dining at a fancy restaurant. How about taking a trip abroad? We had a fun conversation about our anniversary like that. And as a result, we decided to stay at a high-end domestic inn. However, about a month before our anniversary, my husband sadly told me that he had to go on a business trip and couldn't go on the anniversary trip.
I see, but
If it's for work, we can't do anything about it. I was sad, but since our anniversary was on a weekday, he couldn't take the day off from work. Kevin was promoted to section chief 5 years ago, and he is still working hard. And he's trusted by his subordinates, so he couldn't take the day off. Even if he couldn't go on anniversary day, I hoped we could go on a trip on another day. But the inn we wanted to stay at was so popular that we couldn't get a reservation for that month. So we decided to make a reservation for the following weekend. At that time, I never thought that something like that would happen. Then one day, my husband came back drunk, which was unusual for him. He was inebriated and collapsed on the sofa, talking in a way that was incomprehensible. I brought him some water, but he had already fallen asleep. It was a Friday, so he probably went out drinking with his subordinates. At that moment, his smartphone lit up and a text message appeared on the screen. I didn't mean to look, but I saw a heart emoji in the message and couldn't help but stare. The name of a woman, Christine, came up in the message. Although only part of the message was visible, it began with, "Today was really fun," followed by a heart emoji. What could this possibly mean? Is he having an affair? His phone is locked with a password, so I couldn't check it. I felt a sense of confusion and frustration because we have overcome many obstacles together and built a life together. So I wanted to believe in what we had. I was too afraid to ask him directly. Maybe I was just not brave enough. Instead, I decided to hire a private investigator. The result of the investigation came out while Kevin was away on a business trip on the day of our 10th wedding anniversary. Unbelievably, he had been having an affair for a year. He had never shown any signs of infidelity before, but he had been secretly involved with another woman. He had betrayed me, and this fact hit me hard. I was in a shock. Even if he couldn't have children, I had vowed to stay with him forever. But he didn't feel the same way. The woman he cheated with was a woman female employee, 10 years his junior, in other words, his subordinate. I couldn't believe it. I was angry at my husband, and my love for him had cooled instantly. Kevin said he was on a business trip, but maybe he was actually on a trip with his mistress. Come to think of it, he had made the reservations for the hotel. If he was on an affair trip during our 10th wedding anniversary, it would be truly despicable. Since I don't know the truth, it's pointless to think about it. So I decided to prepare for divorce. First, I need to find a job. It has been 10 years since I quit my last job, so it's not easy to get hired. So I decided to search for a job as soon as possible and went to interviews. I thought about going back to my parents' house for a while after the divorce, so I searched for job openings in an area that was easy to commute from my parents' house. I found a part-time job opening at a small accounting firm. Since I had a bookkeeping certification, I decided to apply for the job. When I applied online, I received a response immediately, and I was asked to come in for an interview the next day. I quickly prepared my resume and went to the interview. The president who interviewed me seemed to like me, and to my surprise, I was hired on the spot. I was grateful because getting a job gave me a lot of mental relief. After that, I packed my things and left home immediately so that I could move out as soon as possible. When Kevin returned home from his business trip, he wasn't alone. I had a bad feeling when I saw a woman figure behind him. I had a bad feeling, but I pretended to be calm and asked him, "Who's she?" He then boldly replied, "This is my new wife." When his new wife showed her face to me, I realized that it was the same woman in the evidence photo sent by the detective agency. My husband had brought his mistress to our house. Both of them had suitcase, which means that he was not on a business trip, but had gone on a trip with his mistress. The mistress stared at me triumphantly, and he made a surprising announcement. "She got pregnant with my child, so I'm remarrying her. Divorce me." What are you talking about? I was surprised about the pregnancy, but it seemed like my husband and his mistress thought I was surprised by the divorce being brought up. Kevin and I were meant to be together, not you. "Christine and I love each other. I'm sorry, but please break up with me." I was beyond angry. I was dumbfounded. "I see. You're planning on divorcing me no matter what, huh?" I pretended to be shocked and submissive. "But how did you manage to have an affair? You can't possibly take her on trips with the money I gave you as your monthly allowance." Then he made a surprising statement. "Oh, I wasn't giving you all of my salary." What? I didn't understand what he meant. But his mistress smiled slyly and opened her mouth. "Maybe in your mind, Kevin is still a section chief, but he became a department head since last year. So, he gave you the salary from when he was a section chief and used the rest for our dates." Oh. I felt ashamed for trying to spend my life with someone like him. At first, Kevin was hesitant, but as I didn't talk back or get angry, he became brazen. "Anyway, Christine got pregnant, and I have to be responsible here. Divorce me, okay? Since I've supported your life until now, I don't owe you any compensation, right? You've been able to enjoy being a housewife too." Without any hint of remorse, my husband boldly declared his infidelity. I was actually disgusted by his advocacy. Fine, but in exchange, I want all the property and money we accumulated during our marriage, including this house. When I said that, he replied nonchalantly, "That's fine. With my salary from when I was a section chief, you probably didn't save up that much. Plus, this house isn't that expensive to begin with. Besides, I can easily buy a house like this again." Kevin readily accepted my request, but he still didn't know which one of us was really losing out in this divorce. I took the divorce papers that he brought and signed them. "I'll submit then." "Okay, thanks. I'm glad you're a reasonable person." "I'm glad you were able to get divorced that easily," his affair partner chimed in, clinging to his arm as if to flaunt her victory. But at that point, I didn't feel any regret or bitterness. After all, I was definitely the one who came out ahead. Kevin quickly packed his things and left with his affair partner. After that, I filed for divorce and completed all the necessary procedures for dividing our assets and changing the ownership of the house. I became completely separated from my ex-husband. Then, a month later, my ex-husband suddenly called me.
Hey, what the hell did you do?
Well, hello to you too.
Did you tell the upper management and my colleagues about my affair? They've been flooding with me complaints. And I got demoted by the company and transferred to a branch office in the countryside.
Oh dear, but I didn't tell the company or anything like that. Your company is where I used to work. And there are still a few employees there that I'm on good terms with. It's probably because of them that the news got out.
You're horrible. Don't drag me down just because your life is miserable. By the way, why weren't you at the house? When I stopped by earlier, someone I didn't know came out and surprised me.
Oh, I sold the house.
You sold it? Why would you do something like that?
Well, you didn't know, but I happened to get information that the land value in the area was going up. So I was able to sell it for a lot more than what we bought it for.
No, you're lying, right?
And earlier you said that my life would be miserable. But you're wrong. I worked really hard to save money with the salary you gave me. So even after buying that house, I was able to save almost $100,000.
$100,000?
So I ended up better off than if I had just received alimony and property distribution. But it's your fault for having an affair. Oh, and by the way, have you forgotten that you have a condition that makes it difficult for women to conceive? Is the child from your affair really yours?
Could it be that Christine has another man?
I don't know, but maybe you should seriously look into it. Anyway, don't bother me anymore. If you showed up in front of me again, I'll report you to the police. Keep that in mind, I said, and hung up the phone and blocked his number. Later, I heard from a former colleague that the child from the affair was indeed not his child. Kevin, feeling angry that he had been deceived and having ended things with his mistress, had lost a lot. He was removed from the career track and had squandered the savings that we had been planning to use together. Currently, he is working in a remote department where he has no acquaintance, feeling ashamed of himself. On the other hand, I'm living with my parents again after a long time, working hard at an accounting firm. With the large sum of money I've earned this time, I plan to invest and increase my assets even further. I want to learn more about my job and aim to eventually be hired as a regular employee. As for romance, I'll take it slow and wait for an opportunity to meet someone. I want to prioritize my time with work and family. Even if Kevin knew that he couldn't have children, it's wrong to betray the person who was stood by him. Molly has the right to receive all the savings in the house. In my opinion, as she had supported that jerk of a husband until now. From now on, I hope she enjoys living a rich life and focuses on being happy. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.
I've had enough. I will go back to my parents' house. I became emotional, and this was the first time I argued against my husband, Phil. And as expected, Phil got bright red and was very angry.
Then don't ever come back here. Make sure to sign the divorce papers before you leave.
Saying this, Phil pushed the divorce papers into my face. I just couldn't take it anymore. I got my pen, and as I began to sign the papers, Phil widened his eyes, looking confused. Well then, thank you for everything you've done. But well, it's more like I was the one who did everything. My name is Christy. I am 30 years old and I am a full-time housewife. My husband Phil and I just got married, and I'm already beginning to regret this marriage. This is because my husband completely changed the moment we got married. He used to be so kind and gentle to me, but the moment we got married, he turned into a demon. He used to be such a kind person. But how and why did he turn into a demon like this? Even though I wondered, I couldn't really come up with the reasons. My husband and I originally met through my dad.
Christy, his name is Phil, and he is a very talented employee in my company. Nice to meet you. My name is Phil.
Phil was a company employee working for the company which was owned by my dad. He was 2 years older than me, seemed to have a good attitude towards work, making good results, and for this my dad trusted him. I was working at a company which was a business partner for my dad's company, and I was introduced to him when I went to dad's company for a business meeting.
Christy, you aren't married yet, and I heard that you're not dating anyone currently, so I thought, why not Phil?
What? Wait a minute, Dad. What are you saying all of a sudden? I was surprised when Dad suddenly suggested Phil as my fiancé.
I mean, you can't stay unmarried like this, and I'm not saying that you two should get married. I just wanted him to meet my daughter because he is brilliant and excellent. You should go to dinner once with him and talk with him.
Won't it be a bother for you, Phil? I mean, my dad suddenly made such a reckless request to you.
No, I don't think it's reckless at all. In fact, I feel very honored. If you don't mind, I would like to have dinner with you once.
Phil approached me in such a positive way that I got a little excited. And we actually went out to dinner, and he was very kind and also interesting to talk to. But he was also quite a gentleman, without being very shallow about anything. To be honest, I was attracted to him right away. When Dad asked me how it was like with Phil, I told him he was fun and nice, and I was too embarrassed to say that I liked him a lot. But I kept in touch with him without telling my dad about it, and we started seeing each other after that. And after a few more dates, we decided to officially go out. Phil looked at me seriously and said that he wanted me to go out with him with marriage in mind. I said yes to his confession, and then decided to inform this to Dad. My dad said,
Oh, you decided to go out with him? Good, good, good.
And he was certainly overjoyed. And from then on, Phil and I continued to date. He always made me great date plans and treated me like a princess. I was puzzled because I had never had a man treat me so kind like him before, and I was just very happy. I was beginning to think that I wanted to marry such a wonderful man like Phil. About a year after we started to go out, Phil proposed to me. The place where Phil proposed to me was at a very beautiful table with a night view at a top-class restaurant. I waited for his words with anticipation and excitement, hoping that he might propose to me. Then Phil pulled out a ring box from his pocket, pulled out a ring from it, and finally proposed to me.
Christy, please marry me. I will make you happy for the rest of your life.
Yes, I will marry you, Phil. I felt like I was in heaven. I was so happy that he proposed to me, that I could have just died like this. And when I told my dad about the marriage, he was very happy.
Oh, Christy, honey, I'm so happy for you. I'm sure that your mother in heaven is definitely happy too.
You're right, Dad. I'll make sure I can deliver a wonderful wedding to Mom. Mom died of illness 10 years ago, and since then, Dad and I have lived together, just the two of us. I wish Mom could have seen me as a bride, but I am sure she will be smiling at me in heaven. Afterwards, Phil and I had met with his family and we held a wonderful wedding. And it all went well with no issues. My friends and colleagues congratulated me a lot, and I once again experienced the peak of happiness at the wedding. My dad, being the president of the company, tried very hard not to shed tears in front of his subordinates. But I could tell that he was very moved and emotional. Dad must have been really happy because he kept on congratulating me. We finished the wedding in a very happy state, and I was just imagining the joyous married life that was to come. And then finally, my newlywed life with my husband began. My husband had asked me to quit my job after we got married, so I took the opportunity to quit the company I had been working for and became a full-time housewife. I loved my job, but my life with my husband was still more important, which is why I quit my job without hesitation and became a housewife. I was determined to do my best in the house chores for my husband, who worked very hard for me. But my hopes were shattered in an instant. It was 1 month after my husband and I got married.
Hey, can't you cook anything better?
Huh? My husband suddenly says something like that to me so bluntly that I froze.
Hey, are you even listening to me properly?
Oh, yeah.
Then hurry up and answer me. You have no common sense at all, huh?
What?
Anyways, answer me. I'm asking if you can cook anything better or not.
Is there something that you didn't like which I cooked?
It's everything. Everything you cook is just too plain. Can't you cook something that's more flavorful?
I'm sorry, honey. I was trying to make something healthy and well-balanced, though.
I want to eat something that has meat and fried food. Since what you cooked was mainly vegetables and soup, you better make something good from tomorrow, okay?
Okay. I was surprised at the sudden change in my husband's attitude. And it was not only about cooking, but also about other things.
Why is the bathtub not hot enough? Hey, why aren't my clothes dry whenever I want to wear them, huh? You're such a useless housewife, huh?
My husband's verbal abuse was getting extremely harsh, and I was becoming more and more afraid of him. I wondered where the kind and gentle man he used to be had gone to. And the most scary thing about my husband is that he always acts like he's a good person on the outside. Whenever Phil meets my dad, he acts as a kind, sincere husband and smiling as the nice young man he used to be. Sometimes he brings his coworkers home with him and he acts the same way, as if he was a very good husband to me. But when it is just the two of us, he becomes very scary, and he is not satisfied unless everything is done just the way he wants it. My dream of a happy, wonderful marriage with him was shattered in an instant, and I was in complete despair. After that, my husband's excessive and hostile attitude towards me continued. I even considered divorcing him. But my husband, perhaps seeing through what I was thinking, told me,
If you are thinking about divorce, don't you dare do it. How bad would it be for the CEO's daughter to get divorced after only a month or two? That's going to be bad for your father's reputation, and it's going to be bad for the company's reputation. You're going to make your own father suffer if you divorce me.
Oh, no. At that time, I was not thinking straight and being logical at all. So I strongly felt that I didn't want to bother or worry my dad with what I had to deal with my husband. But do I have no choice but to endure what my husband says to me every single day? Thinking like that made me even more depressed.
Hey, hurry up and pour me some beer. There's nothing in my glass, you know.
I'm sorry.
My God, you're really useless. I mean, you were raised up by your father with no mother at all, so you weren't taught proper values, right?
Don't say it like that.
Huh? Do you have something to say?
My husband threw the glass of beer at me just as I screamed. Fortunately, the glass did not hit my face or my body, but the beer splashed onto my face, and the glass broke when it hit the wall.
You should clean up these broken glasses, since this all happened because of you. I won't forgive you if you didn't clean it properly and hurt my feet when I walk around here.
So then I wiped my face with a towel and cleaned the broken glasses carefully so as not to hurt myself. While I was cleaning up carefully, my husband was humming and taking a bath. But I'm the one who wants to take a bath right now. Little by little, my anger towards my husband began to rise. He must think that I can't go through with a divorce. He better not take me lightly. I am not going to let him get away with what he had done to me. Up until now, I was being weak towards Phil. But I am a woman who does things when she has to. I won't let him talk me down. At that moment, I decided that I was ready to fight my husband. I don't care what happens. Whatever happens, happens. My dad would understand. A few days later, my husband again got angry at me with no good reason. And this was triggered by a certain incident. Hey, a friend of mine who studied abroad is coming back this weekend, and we're going to celebrate her return with a party. I'm thinking of going, but is that okay? When I asked my husband about it, as expected, he did not allow it.
Of course not. You have to cook dinner for me, you know.
Oh, for dinner, I was thinking I could already have it made for you. The moment I said that, my husband slammed the table.
You've got to be kidding. You want me to eat a pre-cooked meal? You know that I work my butt off to provide everything for you, right? So you better make freshly made meal every day and serve it to me. Can't you even understand that, you good-for-nothing woman?
My husband still yells at me and shouting terrible words at me. But I wasn't going to let him talk to me like that anymore. I've had enough. I will go back to my parents' house. I became emotional, and this was the first time I argued against my husband, Phil. And as expected, Phil got bright red and was very angry.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. I won't accept that.
My husband was extremely angry, but I couldn't lose to him either. I don't care whether you approve or not. I just can't stay with you who treats me like your slave.
Then don't ever come back here. Make sure to sign the divorce papers before you leave.
Saying this, Phil pushed the divorce papers into my face. I just couldn't take it anymore. Fine then.
What?
I got my pen, and as I began to sign the papers, Phil widened his eyes, looking confused.
Come on. You can't be serious, right?
Of course I'm serious. I can't keep on doing this with you anymore. When Phil realized that I was serious, he suddenly started to panic.
Hey, wait a minute. Where are you going?
So I told you, I'm going back to my parents' house. As soon as I finished signing the divorce papers, I put them in my bag and started packing my belongings. My husband watched in confusion. Well then, thank you for everything you've done. But well, it's more like I was the one who did everything. I said sarcastically and left the house to go back to my parents' house.
Oh? Christy, honey, what's wrong? I can't believe you suddenly came back home with a big luggage.
My dad was surprised to see my luggage. I, on the other hand, had tears flowing down my cheek when I saw my dad.
Christy?
Before I knew it, I was hugging Dad.
What's wrong? What in the world happened, honey?
In
any case, just come into the house. I'll make you some tea.
Dad said that, and we both went into the living room. And after drinking the tea which calmed me down, I told him everything. He listened quietly and then quietly opened his mouth.
Honey, I'm sorry for giving you a hard time. I'm really sorry.
Oh no, it's not your fault, Dad.
No, first of all, it was me who introduced Phil to you. And besides, it's true that he was using me as a leverage for you to obey him, Christy. And you put up with it because you were worried about me and the company. So I'm responsible for that.
My father said that as he apologized. Then he looked up at me and said with a serious look on his face,
As for Phil, I will punish him thoroughly.
I looked at Dad and nodded strongly. The next day, I received so many phone calls from my husband. I was mentally exhausted and was resting at my parents' house, but my husband was calling me incessantly, so I had no choice but to answer the phone.
Finally, you picked up. Hey, what the hell did you say to your dad? Did you know that your dad fired me right away?
What do you mean, what? Of course. I told him everything you've done to me. The many heartless outbursts, the way you used my dad and his company to threaten me, and even the way you made fun of the fact that I was brought up with a single parent and made fun of me and my family. Do you think that a daughter who heard all of this from his own daughter wouldn't be angry? Well, a man who would tell his wife something like that would never get any credibility in the company anyways.
You've got to be kidding me. You have no proof that I said anything that bad to you.
Don't you dare look down on me like that. I've been keeping a diary and other records of what you've done and said to me, and I've even recorded our conversations. I already have plenty of evidence of your daily verbal abuse to me.
No way.
Oh, and I heard that there was another reason for you being fired. My dad contacted everyone who had ever left the company, and they all said they were changing jobs or leaving for personal reasons. But when he asked them the exact reason, they all told him the real reason. They all were saying that they had all been harassed by you and that you had even taken credit for their work. When my dad told them that he was going to fire you and rehire them all back, they were happy to cooperate.
What?
You act like a good person in public that none of your superiors could see your true nature. You even deceived my father, so I'll give you credit for that. But don't think that you can keep on doing bad things forever. You will never be able to move on to another company in your line of work. And I'm going to charge you compensation for the emotional distress and all the harassment you've done to me.
Compensation?
I even have a doctor's note. You'll be notified through my lawyer, so you'll have to pay for it. The only place you're going is to hell.
Oh no.
My ex-husband's voice sounded so weak when I argued back everything I had on my mind. I teamed up with Dad and succeeded in getting Phil being punished. Afterwards, my ex-husband had to pay me the compensation fee. He's now working part-time and more than half of his salary pays off for the compensation fee. And Phil has been cut off from his parents because of this incident, and now he is living a lonely, sad life with no one to rely on. But he deserves what he got, and it's a really good feeling. Meanwhile, I went back to my parents' house and started living with my dad again. Then, Dad suggested that if I was willing, I would work with him on the premise that I would take over as the next CEO, so I decided to join his company. Currently, I am learning my job while working hard every day to take over the position of the CEO. From now on, I will live with my dad happily, and I hope to make the company a success with my dad. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in our next video.